Hey, Nate at Conductrics here. I want to walk you through our integration with Google Cloud Platform data. So the idea here is that you're interested in connecting Conductrics to some first or third-party visitor data that you may have stored in the Google Cloud, in one of the Google Cloud Platform's database products, for instance, or something else that you have hosted in the Google Cloud. So why would you do this? Well, conceptually, Conductrics is all about serving variations to your visitors, either on your website or mobile apps or what have you. And so you might want to make Conductrics aware of certain visitor attributes that you may have in the Google Cloud. For instance, let's say you've got some basic information like, I don't know, past revenue and customer type of some kind. You might use that information for targeting. So you might want to include or exclude visitors from certain campaigns or tests or something, or optimizations based on those visitor traits. You might also want to let Conductrics use visitor traits in real time to predict the best variations for your visitors. So certain content variations or offer variations, you might want to just let Conductrics use these visitor traits that you expose to us in real time to select the best variation for each visitor. You might also want to just use it in a simpler testing scenario where you just want to see simple A/B test and multivariate test reporting broken down by your segments or whatever else you define for each visitor in the Google Cloud using BigQuery or Bigtable or what have you. So with that in mind, let's go over to the Conductrics admin. I've got a fresh account here. This is what it would look like when you first logged in to Conductrics for the first time. Let's go over to visitor data in the settings, and you'll see a big green Google Cloud button. Go ahead and click the gear icon. This is just to do the initial configuration. This is generally a one-time setup process here. So the first thing I'm prompted for is credentials, a JSON file. And this is easy to get from the Google Cloud admin. There's step-by-step instructions provided by us here with screenshots. But basically, you're just giving us access to, conceptually, to a BigQuery view that we ask you to provide. We'll use that view to complete the rest of the setup. So go ahead and click Choose File. I already grabbed a JSON file from the Google Cloud admin earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and click Next. We use the credentials in there, which is essentially a password file. We use the credentials in there to access the BigQuery tables and views in your in whatever data set you make available to us. You, of course, can pick and choose which data sets we have access to in the first place. So I've got a big in BigQuery. I've got a sample table here. It's very, very simple. You can see just a few columns: customer type, revenue. There's a customer ID. There's some other stuff in here. Here's a preview of it. So this is a very small data set. I only have whatever. I have like 100 records in here or something. So back in the Conductrics admin, I'm reading here that Conductrics would like me to provide a BigQuery view to understand what visitor data is available to use within Conductrics. Okay, so we just took a look at that view. So I'm going to go ahead and select the user data set. And I'm going to select the customers table, or well, customers view, and click Next. At this point, Conductrics is asking me how this visitor information can be accessed at runtime or in real time. So for just getting started, it's good to just use this option here, hit BigQuery directly. This is good for initial development and testing and demos like this. And then when it's time to go into production, you'll instead use this option to call a Google Cloud function. We provide these options because this is really easy to get started. However, accessing BigQuery in real time isn't super practical. It's going to be expensive and kind of slow, whereas a cloud function will be cheap and efficient. But for now, we can kind of skip this step, accept the idea that when I actually view a web page or something that's connected to Conductrix, we're actually going to hit BigQuery directly. In order to make that work, Conductrix needs to know the name of the ID column in the selected field. So that's customer ID. And it also wants to know the name of a cookie or local storage item from which you can grab the visitor ID from, right? So essentially, if you imagine a web page being loaded, what I'm saying here is that there's a cookie or local storage item named vid, visitor ID, might be present. If so, Conductrix will essentially do, if you can imagine something kind of like select customer type or whatever from my table, where the customer ID equals the actual value in the cookie. And then the last step here is just to click Done. So now that initial configuration is complete, now you can turn this over to other users if you wish, or you can go ahead and click here to do the next part, which is to pull in an actual field from that BigQuery view and use it make it available to Conductrix. So that's done on a field-by-field basis. And so now Conductrix is listing it's giving you an option to pick one of the fields in that BigQuery view. Let's go ahead and click choose customer type. And I'm given some options here. Basically, sort of like, what is this information? What type of information is it, and how would you like to use it conceptually? So right here, I pick customer type, and I know that customer type is just a code in my actual data set. The customer type just looks something like this. It's like B or C or A or something. In reality, of course, this might be something like, I don't know, a VIP customer or something of that nature. So customer, and I can kind of choose what type of information it is. So in this case, it's sort of it's a category-like piece of information. So I'm going to select this option. I'm going to click Next. Conductrix will look and see what actual values are in the table. And we see that these are the three actual values, the actual customer types that it found. A little note here about how many of each it found, and I can go ahead and click Done at this point. So that's I've kind of completed the process of mapping conceptually the BigQuery field to Conductrix. Let's go ahead and repeat that process for, I don't know, let's pick revenue total. And so this is a different kind of information. As we can see in our preview here, revenue total is, we presume that these are dollars. So, I guess we've gotten from customer ID number 80, we've gotten $5.7, I guess, in revenue over the past X period. So that's a number in a range, like prices, amounts, or quantities. So that sounds appropriate. And for numeric information such as this, Conductrix wants to bin this information conceptually into a few different, into a smaller set of visitor traits that allows us to set up rules and so on in a more compact fashion. So by default, it's going to split information like this into 3 visitor traits, sort of with a label of low, medium, high. But you can choose a different number. You want this to be a relatively low number, something like 3, 4, 5, maybe 10, maybe 20. but not more than that. You kind of are conceptually binning your sort of random ad hoc numeric data into something that's more category-like. I'll click Next, and Conductrics contacts BigQuery and does some analysis and determines that the low, medium, and high values should be split up thusly. You can tweak this stuff later if you need to, but I'll just go ahead and click Done at this point. So now I've imported conceptually two visitor traits, customer type and revenue total, into Conductrix. So I'll go ahead and click Save Changes. So that took a little while because I'm explaining things, but it's actually a fairly quick process if you're just kind of going through it. And a lot of times you only have to do this once or very infrequently. So now that that's set up, I can return to the main part of the Conductrix admin, and I can try using this information. We can see how this would actually work in an actual optimization or experiment of some kind. So there's two main ways to use Conductrix. You can use it programmatically as a developer. There's developer documentation here. The steps are basically that you create an agent. An agent is something that it's a kind of a thing that's kind of running a test or an optimization. It's what other software might call a campaign or an experiment. And then you, once you've created the agent, then you kind of write some kind of JavaScript code or other code to interact with the API. So that's one way to use it. For demo purposes, I'm going to use this other way, which is Conductrix Express, where you can set up changes to web pages visually. But you'll be able to use either in your actual projects. So I've already set up the account. I went through a couple of initial steps. We have other videos that explain this. I just basically said, what what URL my website is at and so on. Now I'm ready to create my first agent. So I'm prompted for a URL, which I provided earlier. This is just what I'm going to be playing around with is just this simple landing page. Obviously, you'll use your own page at this point. So go ahead and click Setup Changes. And the landing page opens with the Conductrix toolbar loaded. And we support a variety of different changes in here that you can make to set up whatever variations are appropriate. You can supply different images, you can change CSS styles and so on. Just for quick demo purposes, I'll just change some text. Let's call this a special VIP offer. I'll click OK and done. So I've set up a conceptual B variation, let's call it. So targeting experiment 1. And I'll just go ahead and pick this. This is where you can say which specific URLs the changes should be made on. I'll just pick all pages for now. Go ahead and click Create Agent. And I've landed here. What I'm going to do is just show you a couple of things now that we can do with that information that we imported from BigQuery. I'll go ahead and click Edit Agent. And I just want to show you that I can do stuff like add a condition based on, so I've got like customer type and revenue total. These are my custom traits that we added earlier. I can use these in combination with other stuff that's provided by Conductrix, time of day type stuff, geo lookups, whether or not the visitor is using a mobile browser, and so on. So you can combine conditions together. But let's say all I want to use is the customer type, and we're just using A, B, and C, but let's just pretend that, I don't know, C is a conceptual sort of like VIP. So I'll go ahead and click Done. So we're saying that VIP visitors should always get the B variation conceptually. So I'll go ahead and click Save on this. And now I'm ready to launch the test. We have a calculator here that helps you understand how long it might take to reach statistical significance if you're in a testing frame of mind. But this is optional. You don't have to provide this information. I'm going to go ahead and skip this step for now. So I've started my test conceptually. So now if I were to visit my page, Conductrics will do a lookup. It'll find out what the customer type is for this visitor, and if it happens to be customer type of C, then we're going to show the VIP messaging. There's another thing you can do, which is to you could also go in here instead and use this to include or exclude people from the experiment altogether. So it's a different kind of use case where you just want to say maybe only people over a certain revenue or under a certain revenue total or something like that get included in a test. So that's another way you can use Conductrix. And then a third way is you could tell Conductrix to select amongst the A and B variation predictively. So using predictive analytics based on whichever visitor traits I select down here. So again, this can be a mix of the visitor traits provided by Conductrix or the customer visitor traits that we've imported conceptually from the Google Cloud Platform.